Okay, so picture this, right? You've had the longest day. All you want to do is collapse on the couch and just mindlessly scroll on your phone. So you open up TikTok and boom, it's like the algorithm just like sees right through you.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're watching a video about like exactly what you needed. Maybe
Ah,
it's some like calming yoga or a hilarious cat meme. I don't know. Whatever it is,
right.
makes you laugh out loud, feels good in the moment, but also, you know, kind of creepy at the same time, right?
Yeah, it is a bit unsettling when you really stop and think about it, like the power of AI to take all our data, like our wants, our desires, and then predict what we want.
Yeah,
It's growing so fast.
it really is. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay.
This whole relationship we have with AI. Like, is it turning us into these, mindless content zombies? Or can we actually use it as a tool for like real self-discovery, personal growth, all of that?
It's the question on everyone's mind, right? Especially with AI, just, every day something new.
Right.
It's a mixed bag for sure. Huge potential, but a lot of ethical questions we have to kind of grapple with.
Absolutely. And the source material for this deep dive is this article called The AI Paradox. Are we becoming pets or partners in enlightenment? It brings up some really fascinating points, and I think we're going to have a lot to unpack as we go through it.
I think so too. It really gets at that kind of central tension,
Yeah.
AI's ability to both like box us in, but also expand our possibilities, choices, freedom, all of that. It's a tough one to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to cover a lot today. We're going to talk about that idea of falling into the pet trap of algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Dorsey's, pretty strong warnings about AI's potential to actually program us. And then we'll look at the flip side.
Right.
AI is this tool to hold a mirror up to ourselves, help us actually grow as individuals.
I think it's important to, not just talk about the high level ideas, but also dive into some real examples. Things like mental health chatbots, VR therapy for folks dealing with trauma.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, the article opens with this scenario that I think a lot of us can probably relate to. And the author talks about having this exact scene experience, the one we were just talking about. Feeling understood, but also a bit creeped out by the algorithm's ability to like predict what they needed.
Right, is that initial, wow, this thing gets me, but then it's quickly followed by, wait a minute, hold on.
Right.
Am I really the one making choices here? Or is this algorithm just sort of deciding what I see, what I feel?
100%. It's almost like those targeted ads that like follow you around the internet.
Oh, yeah.
You start to wonder like, how much does this thing actually know about me?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good thing? Should I be worried?
Right. And the author uses this really powerful analogy, talking about being a pet happily lapping up what of the content our digital owner, the algorithm, picks out for us.
I think that's spot on. It highlights how these systems can exploit our biases, keep us on this short leash, even if it feels comfy, because it's giving us exactly what we think we want.
Yeah, it's that whole infinite scroll phenomenon. You just keep scrolling, not because you really want to, but because, well, the algorithm's designed to keep you hooked.
Yeah.
It's like a casino, playing on those variable rewards to keep you coming back for more.
Totally. And it's not even just about entertainment. Think about like the news feeds that we see, the political content that gets amplified.
Right.
These algorithms can shape how we see the world, sometimes without us even realizing it.
It's a huge point. And the article talks about Jack Dorsey's warnings about this very thing. He's convinced that AI is already like programming us, even if it's subtle.
Yeah.
And, he's coming from a place of having built some of the platforms that are raising these very concerns.
Exactly. His perspective is fascinating because of that.
Right, and his whole push for open source AI is an attempt to kind of even out that power imbalance, right?
Yeah.
He thinks that by making the code behind these algorithms public, it creates more transparency, more accountability, give users more control over their own data and how it's being used.
It's almost like that right to repair movement, but for algorithms, right?
Yeah.
Like we should be able to understand and maybe even tinker with the tech that's shaping our lives.
Exactly. And Dorsey's concerns about algorithm manipulation, they're backed up by research, too. There was this 2023 study by Smith and his colleagues that showed how too much exposure to algorithm-driven content can actually, reduce our cognitive flexibility.
So it's not just about, wasting time scrolling mindlessly.
Right.
It's actually changing the way our brains work.
That's the concern. They had people in the study spending hours consuming content picked by algorithms, and these folks were way slower, way less accurate on tasks tasks that require them to think outside the box.
Wow.
Be flexible.
So like the more time we spend in these algorithm-driven echo chambers, the harder it gets for us to think for ourselves, to make our own decisions.
It's a worry, for sure. It's like those TikTok trends where everyone's doing the same dance. It's fun, it's catchy, but it also creates this kind of sameness, right? A lack of individual expression.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, right?
Yeah,
Like it predicts what you want based on what you've done before, and then it just feeds you more and more of the same so you become even more predictable.
exactly. And that predictability, well, it makes it easier to kind of nudge you in a certain direction, whether it's buying a certain product or who knows, even voting a certain way.
It's pretty sobering when you think about it. But the article doesn't just focus on the bad stuff, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
It also looks at how AI could be this force for good in our lives.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The author brings up this idea of point being, which is this whole new way of thinking about how we relate to AI. Instead of letting it control us, we can actually use it to, learn about ourselves, grow as people.
So instead of being AI's pet, we become, what is it, like its choreographer?
Yeah, exactly. We can use these powerful tools to understand ourselves better, to live more fulfilling lives. Exactly. And the article points out a few specific ways we can make this happen. For example, AI can analyze our habits, our emotions, our choices, and show us patterns we might not even know are there.
It's like having a personal data analyst breaking down our lives.
Right, helping us connect the dots.
Wow. It's like this digital mirror that reflects back, our true selves, even the parts we might try to hide or ignore.
It really is, and that kind of self-awareness, well, it can be incredibly valuable for personal growth.
So we're back, diving deeper into this whole AI thing.
We've been talking about this, this really interesting and sometimes a bit scary relationship we have with AI, the good, the bad, and that big question.
Right.
Are we becoming like pets to these algorithms, or can we actually use them to become, more enlightened, better versions of ourselves?
Totally. We talked about that pet trap, right? Those endlessly scrolling feeds that keep us hooked and predictable.
Right.
And how AI systems can sometimes know us better than we know ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Which is, I don't know about you, but it's kind of a freaky thought.
Yeah, for sure.
But we also touched on that flip side, the point being idea,
Yeah.
where AI could actually be used to help us grow and understand ourselves better.
Right. Like, remember we were talking about how AI can analyze all that data about us?
Yeah.
Show us those hidden patterns in our lives?
Right. It's like holding up a mirror to our true selves.
Exactly. And before we took a break, we were about to get into the author's, concrete suggestions for how to, how to take control and make this relationship with AI work for us.
Right. Let's get into those practical steps. The author calls it a call to action. Sounds pretty serious.
Yeah, it is. They're saying we need to be proactive, not passive, in shaping how we interact with AI.
Okay.
They offer 4 main suggestions. Own your algorithms, prioritize ethical AI, learn the game, and lean in.
Okay, I like it. 4 suggestions, feels durable.
Yeah.
Let's break those down one by one. So first up, own your algorithms. What does that actually mean? Like, what can we actually do?
It means becoming more aware of all those algorithms that are shaping your online experience.
Right.
And demanding more transparency, more control.
So not just accepting whatever's thrown at us,
Right.
but actually understanding how it all works, those recommendation engines, what data they're using,
Exactly.
how they're influencing us.
It goes back to what we were talking about with Dorsey and his push for open source AI, making the code behind those algorithms accessible so we can see what's going on and even change things if we want to.
It's like choosing to cook a meal yourself instead of just ordering takeout.
Ooh, I like that.
You have way more control over what goes in it, how it's made,
Yeah.
and of course, in the end, what you end up with.
Exactly. And just like cooking, it might take a bit more effort up front, but it can be so worth it.
Okay, so owning our algorithms is basically about becoming a more conscious, more informed user of technology.
Yeah, exactly. Not just passively consuming whatever's put in front of us.
Right. The next suggestion is prioritize ethical AI. And honestly, when I hear that, it sounds great, but it also feels kind of vague.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean in real life? Is it just a buzzword, or are there actual things we can look for?
It's a really good question. And to be honest, a lot of people are trying to figure that out right now.
Right.
But I think it comes down to supporting AI that's developed with human values in mind.
Okay.
Things like fairness, transparency, privacy, and well-being.
Right.
We need to ask ourselves, is this AI system making the world a more just and equitable place?
Yeah.
Is it respecting people? Is it helping people thrive? Or is it just about, efficiency and profit?
Those are some big questions, and it gets even trickier when you think about how AI is often developed, in these big companies, in these profit-driven environments.
Right, exactly.
So how do we make sure those human values aren't just an afterthought?
Well, the article argues that it starts with raising awareness
Okay.
and demanding more from the companies and institutions building these systems. Like,
Mm,
we as consumers have power. We can choose to support businesses that are actually trying to do the right thing.
right.
We can also push for stronger laws and regulations that protect us and make sure AI is used for good.
It makes sense. It's almost like that movement for organic food,
Yeah.
consumers wanting higher standards and actually, putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. And just like food labels, we need like clear ethics labels for AI systems so we can make informed choices about the tech we're using.
Right, right. I see how these suggestions are starting to fit together.
Yeah.
We need to understand how these algorithms work. We need to demand they're developed ethically.
Uh-huh.
And then we need to make conscious choices about which ones we support. It's about taking control, right?
Exactly. And that leads to the third suggestion, which is learn the game.
We're in the game. What game are we talking about?
Haha, no, not like some secret AI society or anything.
Okay, good.
The game is AI itself, the author's saying the more we know about how it works, the less we'll be manipulated by it.
So instead of being intimidated by AI, we should try to understand it.
Yeah.
But does that mean we all have to become computer scientists or something?
No, not at all. It's about having a basic understanding of the key ideas, like what's an algorithm, what's machine learning, what's data bias.
Uh-huh.
It's about being able to ask those critical questions and really evaluate the information we're seeing.
Okay, so it's like learning the rules of the road before you start driving.
Yes, exactly.
You'll be a safer, more confident driver.
And luckily, there are so many resources out there like books, podcasts, online courses to help people learn about AI without needing a tech background.
That's good to hear because it seems like there's a shift happening, right? From being scared of AI to feeling more empowered, more informed.
I agree, and I think that shift is so important. If we want to use AI for good, we need to move past those dystopian stories and start thinking about how AI can help create a better future.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to that last suggestion. Lean in.
This one's all about really embracing AI as a tool for, personal growth.
Yeah.
Exploring all the ways it can make our lives better.
Okay.
Being curious, trying out different AI tools and platforms, and seeing what works for you.
So instead of being afraid of AI, we should be actively looking for ways to use it to our advantage. I like that. Much more proactive.
Exactly, but how do you know which AI tools are actually worth your time?
Right. That's a good question.
I think the key is to start with your own goals and values. Like, what are you hoping to achieve? What are you struggling with? What areas of your life could use a little AI boost?
Okay, so like if I'm having trouble with procrastination, I might try a time management app that uses AI to organize my schedule.
Uh-huh.
Or if I'm feeling super stressed, maybe I'll experiment with a meditation app that uses AI to like personalize my meditations.
Exactly. And there are so many other possibilities,
Yeah.
language learning apps that adapt to your pace, fitness trackers that create personalized workout plans, even dating apps that use AI to match you with compatible partners.
Wow, it really seems like AI is like weaving itself into every part of our lives.
It is, and that's why it's so important to be intentional about how we're using it,
Yeah.
We need to be the ones in control, not the other way around.
This is starting to paint a much more optimistic picture of AI, not just the dystopian future where robots rule everything,
Right.
but a future where AI can actually help us become, I don't know, more human, more ourselves.
That's the goal, right? Using these powerful tools to make our lives better, to connect with each other in more meaningful ways, and to create a more just and sustainable world.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about ethical AI, and I'm curious to go a bit deeper.
Okay.
Like the article mentions prioritizing human values, but what does that actually look like? Are there specific principles or guidelines that developers should be following?
That's a great question, and it's a discussion that's, still ongoing.
Uh-huh.
But there are a few key principles that are often brought up as like the foundation for ethical AI development.
Okay, I'm listening.
One of the most basic ones is beneficence, which basically means that AI systems should be designed to, help people and avoid causing harm.
Right, make sure it's used for good, not for evil.
Exactly, and that might sound obvious,
Yeah.
but it gets really tricky when you start thinking about all the potential unintended consequences.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, imagine you're developing an AI system to help doctors diagnose diseases.
Okay,
The goal is to get better outcomes for patients, save lives, right?
right.
But what if the system was trained on data that's biased, or if it wasn't tested properly?
Oh, I see. Even with good intentions, things could go wrong.
Exactly. So making sure AI is beneficial means being really careful about data quality, how the algorithms are designed, and constantly checking to make sure it's actually doing what it's supposed to, helping people, not hurting them.
That makes sense. What are some other important principles?
Another big one is non-maleficence, which is kind of the flip side of beneficence.
Okay.
It's about avoiding harm, or at least minimizing it whenever possible.
So it's like the Hippocratic Oath for AI. First, do no harm.
Yeah, exactly. And this principle is super important when you're dealing with AI systems that could impact people's safety or their basic rights.
Like self-driving cars or AI used in healthcare or criminal justice.
Right, those are high-stakes situations where mistakes can have serious consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So avoiding harm means having strong safety protocols, clear accountability, and really thinking through those potential risks and how to minimize them.
Okay, beneficence, non-maleficence, do good, avoid harm. Those make sense. Any others?
Yeah, another really important one is autonomy.
Okay.
It's all about respecting people's ability to make their own choices, to control their own lives, even with all these, increasingly smart AI systems around.
So making sure AI doesn't take over our decision-making or limit our freedom.
Exactly, and this is something we need to be aware of as AI becomes more and more a part of our everyday lives, in our home, at work, even in our social interactions.
It makes me think of those virtual assistants that are getting so popular,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that can, like, control your lights, order your groceries, even schedule appointments.
Yeah.
Super convenient, but it also makes you wonder, how much control are we giving up?
Right, and it's not just about convenience.
Yeah.
It's about the potential for manipulation, like what if these systems start nudging us towards certain choices or filtering what we see based on what they think is best for us?
It's like those personalized recommendations you get on shopping websites.
Yeah.
They can be helpful, but they also create this, like, filter bubble where you're only seeing things that fit your past behavior.
Exactly. So making sure we keep our autonomy in the age of AI means designing systems that are transparent, explainable, and customizable.
Okay.
Users should be able to understand how the system is making decisions and change the settings to fit their own needs and values.
So it's about making sure AI is a tool that empowers us, not something that controls us.
Exactly. And that brings us to the last principle we'll talk about today, which is justice.
Okay, justice, how does that apply to AI?
In this context, it's about making sure AI systems are fair, unbiased, and accessible to everyone.
So it's about preventing AI from, like, making existing inequalities worse or creating new forms of discrimination.
Exactly. And this requires being very careful about data quality, algorithm design, and how the benefits and burdens of these technologies are distributed.
Can you give me a real-world example?
Sure, let's say you're building an AI system for loan applications.
Okay.
If the system is trained on data that reflects past biases in lending practices, it might unfairly deny loans to people from certain groups even if they qualify.
That's a scary thought, especially as AI starts to play a bigger role in things like finance, healthcare, and education.
It is, and that's why it's so important to have diverse teams of people working on these systems, developers, ethicists, social scientists, to make sure they're designed and implemented fairly.
This is all really important stuff. It's clear that developing ethical AI is not easy. It's not just about writing code.
Yeah.
It's about understanding human values, power dynamics, the consequences of our actions.
You're absolutely right. And it's an ongoing conversation that needs input from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
Ethicists, social scientists, policymakers, engineers, and of course the public.
We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values we put into it and the choices we make about how to use it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole discussion so exciting and important.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about gadgets and algorithms.
Right.
We're talking about what it means to be human in the age of AI.
Well said. We've covered so much in this part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From those practical steps we can take to reclaim our agency to the bigger ethical questions we need to be asking about AI development.
We've seen how AI can be both empowering and controlling, and how important it is to be informed, engaged, and proactive in how we interact with it.
So do we go from here? What's next?
In the final part, we're going to zoom in on the individual level, exploring how people are already using AI for personal growth and transformation.
I'm really excited to get into those real-world examples and see how AI is actually being used to improve people's lives.
We'll get into that, so stay with us as we continue our deep dive into the world of AI and self-discover. We'll be back soon to explore how AI is shaping not just our world, but also our inner lives.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive.
We're in the home stretch now, wrapping up our exploration of AI and, all the ways it's impacting our lives.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. The potential downsides, those ethical challenges, and who really holds the power in this whole AI game.
For sure, but we've also seen how AI can be this incredible force for for good, helping us grow, learn, even heal.
Absolutely. It's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot to be excited about.
Right. And in this last part, we're going to get really personal. Like, how are people actually using AI for self-improvement, real world stuff?
Love it. I'm really looking forward to these examples. Back in part one, we talked about Wobot, that AI chatbot that uses like cognitive behavioral therapy techniques.
Yeah, it's a great example of how AI can make mental health support way more accessible and affordable.
Right, especially for folks who, maybe can't afford traditional therapy or just aren't comfortable, going that route.
Exactly. It can be a real bridge for people who need help, but, might not have access to it otherwise.
Aside from chatbots, what other AI mental health tools are out there? The article mentions some pretty interesting ones.
Well, there are these apps that use AI to analyze your voice, how you're speaking, even your facial expressions,
Wow,
to pick up on early signs of depression or anxiety.
seriously. It's like having an AI friend who can tell you're feeling down even if you don't realize it yourself.
Aha, kind of, yeah. These tools are still pretty new, but they could be really powerful, especially for people who aren't, super in touch with their own emotions.
It's like an early warning system for your mental health.
Exactly. And then there's AI being used in VR therapy, which we touched on earlier. Being able to create those immersive experiences where people can safely confront, past trauma. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I remember reading about a study where they used VR to help veterans with PTSD.
Uh-huh.
Really impressive results.
And what's really cool is that the AI can actually tailor the experience, like adjusting the difficulty or giving extra support when needed.
So it's like having a virtual therapist who's always adjusting to how you're doing?
Yeah, precisely. But moving beyond mental health, AI is also being used to help people be more creative, express themselves in new ways.
Okay, now we're talking. This is where it gets fun. What's AI doing in the creative world?
Well, you remember we talked about Google's Deep Dream, right? Using AI to make those super trippy psychedelic images.
Oh yeah, those morphing landscapes and faces. It's wild. Like AI is giving us a window into another dimension or something.
Definitely a unique art form. And there are other AI tools out there that can help you make music, write poetry, even choreograph dances.
Whoa, so it's like AI is becoming a partner in the creative process.
Absolutely. And it's not just about like making professional level art. It's about giving everyone the tools to express themselves, no matter their skill level.
Love that. Making creativity accessible to everyone.
Right. And then there's AI being used for more, introspective things like journaling, self-reflection.
Okay, now that's something I can get behind. I've always loved journaling, but sometimes I just get stuck. How's AI helping with that?
There are apps that use AI to go through your journal entries, look for patterns in what you're writing about, how you're feeling,
Uh-huh.
and then they can give you prompts to guide your reflection, help you go deeper.
So it's like having an AI therapist helping you make sense of your own life.
In a way, yeah, these tools can be super insightful, especially if you're new to journaling or just want a fresh perspective on things.
It's like a digital companion on that whole self-discovery journey.
Exactly. And some people are even using AI to, explore their spirituality, connect with something bigger than themselves.
Now that's interesting. How's AI being used in the spiritual realm?
There are apps that can put together personalized meditations, spiritual teachings, even connect you with like-minded people.
It's like having a digital guru guiding your spiritual path. Sounds almost too good to be true. Did these things actually work?
It really depends on the person, what they're looking for. For some, these apps can be a great way to deepen their practice, expand their awareness. Others might find them, I don't know, too impersonal or gimmicky.
Right, you got to find what works for you, not just blindly follow what the algorithm suggests.
Exactly. And I think that's the main takeaway from all these examples. AI is a tool, just like any other tool. How we use it is up to us.
We're not just passengers in this whole tech revolution, right? We've got choices to make. We have the power to shape how AI develops to make sure it benefits humanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about embracing the potential, but staying aware of the risks. Asking the tough questions, holding people accountable, and working towards a future where tech serves us, not the other way around.
This has been such an incredible journey, exploring AI from all these different angles, how it's changing the world, how it's changing us.
We've seen how it can both, amplify what makes us human and challenge it. And in the end, it's up to us to decide what kind of future we want with AI.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we'll leave you with a question to ponder. How will you choreograph your own relationship with AI? Will you be the pet or the choreographer? The choice is yours.
And remember, the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's being created right now by all of us. So let's choose wisely, let's be intentional, and let's create a future where tech empowers us to be our best selves.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep questioning those algorithms.